Okay, so picture this. You're a successful school principal in a big city like Atlanta. Stable job, good career, and one day you decide to leave it all behind to become a farmer. Not just any farmer, but one who ends up on Netflix and in John Deere commercials. It sounds kind of crazy, right? Well, this is the incredible, true story of a man who traded a principal's parking spot for 31 acres of land, and we're going to break down exactly how he did it.
I mean, just look at this contrast. It really says it all. On one side, you have an educator, a guy with a tiny 30-foot yard and literally zero farming experience. And on the other, a full-blown farmer, a 31-acre farm, and a voice that's heard all across the country. So you have to ask yourself, how on earth does a transformation this massive even happen?
So, who is this guy?
This is Patrick Mohammed, and for years, his whole world was education. He was a dedicated principal in Metro Atlanta, running schools with more than 1,000 students. You know, a pillar of the community, a steady career, but deep down, he felt this pull for something more, something bigger. He wanted to build a legacy that would last way beyond the school walls.
And what's so wild about this story is that his journey didn't start with some lifelong dream of being a farmer or a fancy business plan. Nope. It all started with two powerful, life-altering questions that just completely flipped his perspective on what a legacy really means. The first moment came from a conversation with his dad, and his father asked him something so simple but so profound. Son, what are you going to leave your children? You can't leave them that principal parking space. And that just hit him like a ton of bricks. A parking space, a job title, that's all temporary. But he wanted to leave something real, something tangible for his three kids. That question lit a fire in him.
The second big moment happened in 2013. Patrick was watching a speech by Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he heard the words that would basically become his new mission statement. Farming is the engine of our national life. Buy land, they can't make any more. And that was it. The light bulb just went off. That was the answer he'd been looking for. Land. Land was the key to building that lasting legacy.
So, with this new inspiration, Patrick didn't wait around. He took his first massive leap of faith. And get this, he had no land, no tractor, not even really a plan. But what he did have was total conviction, and he acted on it immediately. So how do you even start when you have nothing? Well, for Patrick, it was pretty straightforward. First, he found a mentor, a veteran farmer named Wayne Swanson, who was generous enough to show him the ropes. Then, he pulled his money with some friends, and together, they bought 8 cows. Well, they were all still living in a subdivision. I mean, can you imagine? They were officially cattle owners with absolutely no land of their own to put them on. And this, right here, was the real turning point. The cows were staying on his mentor's property, which was great. But then, his wife, Ishtar, asked a very practical, very important question. What if he gets mad and says, come get your cows? That one question just made everything real. It turned this little side venture into a serious family mission. It was time to find their own piece of land. So in July of 2014, the Mohammed family did it. They took a huge leap and bought their own 31-acre farm. They named it Your Faith Farms, which is just perfect because that's exactly what it was built on. This was the beginning of a whole new life and a very, very steep learning curve. 31 acres. Just wrap your head around that for a second. They went from a typical suburban front yard that was maybe 30 feet long to owning a piece of the earth that was thousands of times bigger. Talk about jumping in at the deep end. And, as you might guess, their operation grew just as fast. That first herd of 8 cows they bought with their friends, well, that's now grown to over 40 grass-fed cows, which have become the foundation of their entire family business. And it didn't stop with cows. At one point, even though he was against it at first, Patrick agreed to rescue a horse named Sweet Tea who was really malnourished. Well, that one act of kindness kind of snowballed, and today they care for over 22 rescued horses on their farm. The whole farm just flourished. And remember, they had no formal training. It was all trial and error and a whole lot of faith. They learned how to raise everything you see here, from livestock to all kinds of produce, turning their land into this incredible source of abundance for their family and their customers. You know, even the farm's donkey has a story. His name is Freedom, and it's a small detail, but it's a powerful one. For Patrick, seeing Freedom every day is a reminder of their journey, and it connects what they're doing directly to that historical promise of 40 acres and a mule, a powerful symbol of self-sufficiency and empowerment. But here's where the story gets even bigger, because it goes way beyond just their own farm.
The knowledge Patrick gained felt like this, this elixir, as he put it, and he felt he had to share it. So his personal mission started to transform into this powerful engine for his entire community.
The ripple effect of his work is just astounding. Seriously, look at this. He's personally mentored over 30 families, helping them buy their own farms. He went back to his roots and is now the principal of an agriculture charter school, teaching the next generation. He's running a massive food aid program, and he's even partnered with huge companies like John Deere.
And if you want to see that impact in real numbers, get this. Through his school, he started a food bank that began by handing out about 2,500 pounds of food every couple of weeks. Today, that number has shot up to 9,000 pounds. That's a huge, tangible difference in fighting food insecurity right there in his own community. So what's the driving force behind all of this? What keeps him going? Well, it really all comes down to their family motto, which is simple but so powerful. We want for our brother or sister what we want for ourselves. That philosophy is behind everything he does. This deep belief that your own success isn't really complete until you're helping other people find success too. And that brings us right back to where we started, back to that conversation with his father. This whole incredible journey, the cows, the land, the school, the community work, it was all in pursuit of finding an answer to that one simple question about legacy.
And in the end, Patrick Mohammed absolutely answered his father's question. He took that idea of a temporary parking space and turned it into 31 acres of endless possibility. He's not just a farmer, he is planning a legacy of empowerment, of community, and of self-sufficiency that's going to grow for generations and generations to come.
You know, Patrick's whole journey started because someone asked him a question about his legacy. And really, it's a question we should all be asking ourselves. When you think about the mark you want to leave on the world, what seed will you plant?